Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Hi, thanks for joining us for In Focus. I'm Eden Lane. Tonight we're in the lobby of the Buell for opening night of the national tour of Once. It's the Tony-winning musical that's making its first stop in Denver. We're also going to spend most of the evening here at the Denver Center because we're going to go across the way to the Galleria Theater for the world premiere of Dixie Longate's brand new show. It's sort of a sequel to her Tupperware Party. It's a tube-top show. We'll talk to Dixie and we'll talk to Randy Weeks of the Denver Center to find out how the work even came to be. But we'll begin tonight at the Arvada Center with John Moore to learn all about his Denver Shakespeare Sonnet Project. This is a completely independent project John is doing for his site culturewest.org, and he's allowing us to share a few of them with you.
When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou couldst answer, "This fair child of mine shall sum my count, and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelst it cold." Nobody wants to picture that.
We sit down with John in the garden at the Arvada Center outside the Black Box Theater. Well, it's kind of fun to meet you outside for a change. When we normally see you, it's always in the lobby or in a darkened theater, so we're outdoors.
Damp, darkened corner.
That's right.
That's right. This is what the sun looks like.
This is what the sun looks like.
I see.
It's kind of interesting because the project that we're here to talk about, you're doing most of them, or at least some of them that I've seen so far, out of doors, and you've just done a recent one here at the Arvada Center, which is why we're meeting here today. How did you come up with this idea to do all of the Shakespeare sonnets with Colorado actors?
Well, I can't claim to have had the idea originally. There's a newspaper in London that did this project a couple of years ago, and I just thought that it was very adaptable to another theater community like our own. Mm-hmm. It just seemed like an opportunity to do another project that ties together actors and creative people from around the theater community in Colorado, all working independently and together on a combined project that promotes art in general.
And you're not necessarily doing each one of them in a classical style. It's not an academic approach to them. They're all very, very different.
I hope that everyone is considerably different from the last. The idea was to take on every sonnet as its own individual creative filming project. Like, we're creating 154 films. I am the person who's scheduling and making sure that they all get filmed and produced. But my goal is to have each of the actors take on sort of the creative leadership of each piece and be able to determine their premise and their setting and their costumes and whoever else is going to be in it, so that they very much have a distinct look to each other.
And you're filming them.
I am.
And you're editing.
Not very well, but I'm the one behind the camera.
You're the one behind the camera, and you're editing them.
Yes.
They're sort of coming up with their own art direction, but it's still really a John Moore film.
I would say it's a John Moore project.
A John Moore project.
Yeah. There are going to be certain actors who don't no longer live in Colorado who are participating in the project who I'm giving full creative control over to. They're just signing up for a sonnet, and they're going to be providing me with the film, and I'll take it from there.
Wow. I know the first one I tagged along with you for was a pretty creative approach to Shakespeare.
Shakespeare would have loved it.
I think he might have, actually.
I think so, too.
Following Shakespeare's Sonnet 1, take 70. Mark.
1, 2, 3.
Sonnet
1! From fairest creatures, we desire increase. From fairest creatures, we desire increase. From fairest creatures, we desire increase.
Please hang up and try again.
Sonnet 1. From fairest creatures we desire increased,
that thereby beauty's rose might never die.
Tell me about what that's like when you're hearing these different ideas of how to approach the sonnets.
Well, I think that there has to be at least some truth involved to Shakespeare's words, but when I set out to do this, I wanted not only to build community within the local theater community, but I also wanted to promote Shakespeare education as well. And so I think each of the sonnets should in some way elucidate what Shakespeare was getting at, or else why would people even bother to watch? So I have given people permission to modernize the text if they want to maximize the understanding of it. But we have such incredible actors in this community. What I found is that those who just say the words have been, the sonnets themselves have never seemed more clear to me.
Wow.
And that's all in the power of the acting.
They that have power to hurt and will do none, that do not do the thing they most do show, who, moving others, are themselves as stone, unmoved, cold, and to temptation slow. They rightly do inherit heaven's graces, and husband nature's riches from expense. They are the lords and owners of their faces, others but stewards of their excellence. The summer flowers to the summer sweet, though to itself it only live and die. But if that flower with base infection meet, the basest weed outbraves its dignity. For sweetest things turn sour by their deeds. Lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds.
You're tapping local actors and some who don't live here or maybe on tour to do these, but that's 154 separate films.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And you're releasing one every week.
It's ridiculous. Why would anybody do this?
I know. All on your own.
I know. What's the answer to that question? Why would anybody do this?
I'm not even sure what the question is there.
It's, are you crazy? That's...
How are you finding time? That's what I want to know. How are you finding time? Because just scheduling the regular work that you do is challenging enough, and that you're doing this as your own independent project.
Yeah, well, how do I find the time to do that? Well, I've only done 5 so far, so that's probably what. No, I'm learning as I go along about time management, and as the project progresses, I'm going to be much more likely to assign actors to go out and do this on their own. I'm not a professional.
Maybe film their own.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a professional filmmaker, so I think
you will be by the end.
After 154 of them, they better be pretty good by the time we're done, or else that was a lot of wasted time. No, but I'm looking forward to sort of empowering the artists to go out and say, you want Sonnet 74? Go ahead and bring it back to me. I think once we empower people to go out on their own, it will even encourage more independence in the way that each sonnet looks. And I think that'll be interesting for teachers who are watching them, and for audiences who are watching them, that they should look as different as possible.
And they do, even though there's only 5 of them so far, and we're going to take a peek at a few of them, they do look very different.
Let me confess that we two must be twain, although our undivided loves are one. So shall those blots that do with me remain, without thy help by me be borne alone. In our two loves there is but one respect, though in our lives a separable spite, which though it alter not love's sole effect, yet doth it steal sweet hours from love's delight. I may not evermore acknowledge thee, lest my bewailed guilt should do thee shame, nor thou with public kindness honor me, unless thou take that honor from thy name. But do not so. I love thee in such sort, as thou being mine is thy good report.
What are the biggest surprises you're finding so far this early in the project?
That there are so many different potential interpretations of the sonnets. You know, I'm not a Shakespeare academic by any means. I entered into this project as much to learn more about Shakespeare myself than to try to impose my intellectual will on anyone else. And I've gone into several of the sonnets thinking I knew what they were about, but then you turn them over to the actors and you talk about it and you realize that there are many different potential interpretations for those sonnets, and what you come up with at the end might not be at all what you thought you were going for when you started.
I think that's absolutely true.
If thy soul check thee that I come so near, swear to thy blind soul that I was thy will.
And will?
Thy soul knows.
Is admitted there.
Thus far for love my love suit sweet fulfill. Will fulfill the treasure of thy love.
I fill it full with wills,
and my will one.
And things of great receipt with ease reprove. Among a number, one is reckoned none.
Then in the number let me pass untold, though in thy store's account I one must be, for nothing hold me.
so it please thee, hold, that nothing me is something sweet to thee.
Make but my name thy love.
And love that still.
And then thou lovest me. For my name is Will.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad to see you're doing this project. It continues our relationship with you in a very new way, from the Sunglasses Project to the opening night series. And I'm so glad that you're getting to keep your fingers in these various aspects of our community the way you're doing now.
Well, I know we've talked about this before, but people who are in the media, including yourself, we're in very lucky positions. And if you aren't using the power of distribution that you have to do your job, but also to help spread the word about the good work that's being done by our artists around here, then I think that's sort of a misuse of your opportunity. So even though there's work to be done, and then there's fun to be done, and I think this is part of the fun.
I think you're right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
As an unperfect actor on the stage, who with his fear is put besides his part, or some fierce thing replete with too much rage, whose strength's abundance weakens his own heart.
So I, for fear of trust, forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in mine own love's strength seem to decay, or charged with burden of mine own love's might. Oh, let my books be then the eloquence and dumb presagers of my speaking breast, who plead for love and look for recompense, more than that tongue that more hath more expressed. Oh, learn to read what silent love hath writ. To hear with eyes belongs to love's fine wit.
You can find more details online at culturewest.org, including the Denver Sonnets Project, featuring 154 sonnets by 154 Denver actors. Now we shift gears with Dixie.
Welcome to Mobile. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and Peter, and Paul, and the other Mary. This is my best friend Georgia Jean's send-off party last night. She's getting hitched. Woo! Stupid. I'm Dixie Longate, Tupperware lady. You You know how you got that friend that you love with all your heart, but you're always about 2 inches away from pushing her off a bridge? What?
We caught up with DCPA President and Chief Operating Officer Randy Weeks right after the opening. How wonderful, not only that you had Dixie return with her Tupperware show, but we get to have the premiere of the next iteration of Dixie's work. How did that happen?
Well, I think everyone would admit that Chris is an incredibly talented actor, and we've had so much fun with him working on Tupperware. We've kept in touch over the past 3 or 4 years. I went out on a ship with him to see his cruise show, and all of this was talking about what's next for Dixie Longate, and he started talking about this show. And here at the Denver Center, we are kind of really interested in having fun and promoting the development of new projects and so forth. And Chris has been such a good friend. We said, well, let's have Dixie back. I think we had about 2-3 weeks of Dixie.
Yeah.
And then we'll flip the show, create a set for you, and let's see what happens with the Tube Top project. And knock wood, we're having a great time. The audiences are loving it, and I think he's got a show.
Audiences here at the Denver Center love the Galleria, and they love when you have Dixie return. And so we only have a very short visit for this second show that Dixie's doing. Are there plans to maybe even bring this one back or extend it a little bit?
Well, we were talking about an extension, and I said no. I'm kind of the one that said no. I think let's play the 3 weeks, see how it goes, because we really didn't, when we were trying to pull the trigger, figure out when we'd have to make that decision, we hadn't even opened the show yet.
You hadn't even seen it with an audience.
We hadn't seen it with an audience, and so I said, no, let's just do it. Ticket sales are very strong, and I think we'll probably sell out. And I think that's we were talking to the team. We all kind of act as a team, but really it's like, Chris, wouldn't you love to leave Denver sold out? People begging to get tickets, and then we can turn right around and figure out when we can bring you back.
When you can bring him back. That's great.
Right.
One of the things that's really special is not only is this a fun, raucous kind of show just like the Tupperware Party, but just like the Tupperware Party, there's this underlying positive, loving message.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you, and I think, if you think also about Tupperware, I mean, there is an underlying story that Dixie, gets through to the audience. And I think he's even more successful here with Tube Top because it's more of a universal, message for not just women, but for the men in the audience. And it's so smart. And he's so it's sort of like he's slipping all of this stuff in through Dixie to the audience. And, we're getting actually some really wise thoughts, wise comments on life and so forth, while we're laughing off. I mean, it's it's fantastic.
This is one of the things that the Denver Center has become really adept at, taking young artists' new work and helping them turn it into something that's really viable. That's such a critical component of what you're doing. Tell me about how you're expanding that or continuing that work here at the Denver Center.
Well, we've played with Dixie quite a bit now. I think it was last summer. We did the Joey McIntyre project with the kid. I've got a couple more projects now sitting on my desk. And I think it develops a little bit of, it speaks to the reputation that we have here, some of the successes that we've had here. And it's what we enjoy doing. And as an organization, as an entire performing arts center, both on the theater company side, here on attractions, or in the Galleria, I mean, creating new work and getting new artists out, getting new works out. I mean, that's what we can do to help promote, the world of theater and entertainment.
Yeah, and keep your audiences happy and satisfied and eager to come back.
And have some fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much.
You bet. It's great to see you again.
After sending everyone off with a good night, the star of the evening, Dixie Longate, met us on stage. How fun that you have your world premiere of your second wonderful show here at the Denver Center at the Galleria. It shows how much Denver loves you, that we keep having you back. And you love us back because you let us be the first to see this.
You're so sweet. I'm so excited. Denver Center called me. I was drinking, and they're like, "Hey, you want to do a show?" I was like, "Okay, yeah. What are you talking about?" And so I've done my Tupperware party here 4 different times now, and they said, "Well, let's work together to premiere a new show." Something like, "What's the next phase of Dixie?" I said, "Well, like my job is the Tupperware party, but I have a whole life at home. So let's talk about what I do at home when I'm in the honky tonk." And so I did a whole story just about me and my best friend and the things we learned while we're drinking. Because when you drink, you get smarter and you create things. It's like that. I wanted to create things that are going to make everybody happy and sort of life lessons that I can give to everybody.
Life lessons.
That's important.
Exactly it. Randy said that this sort of came up when you were on a cruise together.
Well, I've been drinking, and I said because that's usually how I start anything. And I when you try to figure out ways to, like, this part of my life isn't going better. I got to dust myself off and do something better, and it's sort of that thing. And I was writing different notes to myself about, hey, I want to try this, I want to try this, and talking to different people. And I thought, let me put together sort of a collection of things that I think people always forget about, but they're so obvious in front of them that if you just focus on the fun things, the little things, it makes the better part, the bad part of your life kind of go away. Yeah. So that's how it all sort of came about. And I was talking to Randy Wicks of the DCPA, and he said, well, put those down on paper and let's get you up on stage and talk about it. I said, aren't you sweeter than poop on a stick? And he is.
He is. Dixie's new show, Dixie's Never Wear a Tube Top While Riding a Mechanical Bull, has a new neighbor at the Buell, the national tour of Once the Musical. Here's a brief look. Once is only at the Denver Center through May 18th, and Dixie's here only through May 11th. Judging from the audience that was here tonight, they leapt to their feet before the lights even came back up. You won't want to miss either of these shows, and you can get all the information on their webpage at denvercenter.org.
Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching. Good night.